Hey guys, I'm Mike, and this is Tell Me What I'm Doing Wrong, an art critique video series where you send me your art and I send you a video critique, and hopefully you get better and I get better and nobody's feelings get hurt. Uh, Today we have a piece, a cool Batman Who Laughs piece from Jay. Jay writes, "The Batman Who Laughs. Seems like more than a few people like this image someone commissioned me to make. I thought it would be healthy for my ego to get some criticism so I wouldn't go around thinking I'm a super great genius." Right off the bat, man, I want to applaud your humility and the fact that you are, even though people are paying you to make things that you know and want to get better, that is how you are going to get great. So I know that you are going to get a lot out of this video, and hopefully I'll get a lot out of it too. Because of your humility, I have fished out a piece of art that I made at a con recently at C2E2 that I actually started over while I was there, and I ended up mailing them the piece. I was so dissatisfied with what I was doing sitting down, and it's a real piece of garbage. And so I just want you to see that I am also, I'll show you a quick preview and then I'll make it bigger at the end. Just a quick preview of this 11 by 17 piece of garbage that has all kinds of problems. So hopefully as you grow as an artist, you can recognize and be objective and see problems in yourself. It's very easy for me to sit here on my throne and knock other people down, but know that I do the same thing to myself. So let's start by saying the obvious good things about the piece. First of all, it was clearly made with a number 1, a small sable brush, something like that, and an inkwell. It's got a very consistent style. You are clearly an experienced artist. Your lines show a lot of confidence. Your lines are really, really, really well made. I actually was kind of chipping away at this to see what I would talk about, and I'd see that I made some corrections that weren't there. So, cool line style. To me, there appears to be some Jay Lee influence. The cape appears to be that pentagram-shaped Jay Lee thing that he does with Batman. For those of you who don't know, the Batman Who Laughs is a DC character. And he has it's very dark, very metal, very goth, very industrial designed character. And the top half of your character really, really reflects that. Most of my problems are going to be with the bottom half of your character. But the overall feel, like it feels like a unified kind of cool piece of comic art. My issue, I have a bunch of issues. My first issue is going to be with this bottom section right here. It's very disconnected. These are two separately designed legs. The Batman Who Laughs is wearing leather pants, and you have this super kind of industrialized style up top. One other thing I want to point out is that also the thing that makes me think that this was done at a con is that you see all these pencil marks that are in here. This is how a professional who needs to be efficient and wants to finish a piece inside of an hour or 45 minutes or whatever, because they didn't get paid very much money and because they're talking to people and whatnot. All these characters are kind of volumetrically drawn. We have these cylinders here that are volumetrically drawn, and you're a good enough artist that you don't need to sit there and detail everything in pencil before you ink it. A lot of amateurish efforts people really, really, really applaud because they come out super, super refined. But they took 40 hours, which is insane. No actual artist could ever make a living doing little drawings that take 40 hours unless they could charge $40,000, in which case they would be, they wouldn't need to be posting their work for digital cookies per se. But I mean, you've obviously got a lot of skill, but I think that some of the errors in this piece were you trying to be efficient and not necessarily you not understanding. You probably have a perfectly good understanding of anatomy, but when you volumetrically drew these shapes, I don't think you drew through anything. And because you didn't draw through anything, I believe that you didn't notice that his spine would have to be shaped like this for this piece to be for those leg positions to work. That's just not how he's shaped. The legs are just incorrectly positioned, and drawing the upshot is always difficult. You're going to see this underside. I don't know how to... The way that I practice it is that I get models, like I go to ArtStation and get three-dimensional models that you can rotate in space, and then I put the camera underneath them and kind of draw different characters in different positions, because drawing up, for me and for a lot of other artists, is very difficult. And I completely understand and empathize with that struggle, and I applaud the fact that you're challenging yourself. But these are both out of proportion and out of place. It would really be more like this, and these legs would be a little bit bigger, and it would end up looking something like this. If you were to draw it out, that would be the correct. But we still have the fact that his hips aren't far enough back. You're really not... See, even if we put it into position, it still looks a little bit wonky, because these hips are too far forward for the way that you've drawn his torso. His torso is cocked in and back, and so his pelvis is going to be... Let me draw it out for you so you can see. His pelvis is going to be back here more, and so we're going to see less of this. See how that sort of... And then this is probably... I mean, you could tilt this however you want, but this coat is probably going to hide some of that, and the like. So something like that. This might be cut in a little bit, or who knows. But just proportionality. Another problem that I have with this piece is that this leg in a vacuum is like perfect. It's totally stylized. It's got a taper. It shows directionality. You know which way the foot is going. There are details that aren't even there that my mind's eye can see. I could see that this is a cool, industrialized, strappy boot with all these shoelaces, just like the design would be. And then you give me this wonky, cylindrical moccasin on this foot. What is this made out of? It looks like a house shoe. And if that's the case, like if this was a, I don't know, sort of a cartoony piece, and both legs were the same, but these are different materials, different everything. And you know that these are black leather pants. Why is there this giant hard light on the inside of his leg? I don't know what's happening necessarily on the outside. I don't see even my dog is grumbling. I don't see, I don't know if you guys heard that. If this light is coming in on this part of the leg, it's coming hard from right here. Like, this has got to be a hard light. Right? And it's kind of in the chains, but it's going to catch down here, but it's not really going to catch up here with the same veracity. And the underside of the cape feels like there's a huge, at the very least, bounce light coming this direction. And I mean, is he in a hockey rink with selectively spotted lights? I see some inconsistencies with lighting. And that's not that important if this was going to be, you can really get around a lot of that if this was going to be digitally colored, or you were going to color it or something, and we could darken and then render and kind of figure out a lighting thing that works and really bring a bunch of these values in line. But when you only have black and white, I feel, and this is a personal preference thing, that you should give the person paying you money a bit of a story with light at the very least. Proportion and lighting are really important when it comes to just black and white art. You can get away with so much more if you were going to scan this in and make a comic book out of it. If it was a comic, I mean, there's so much that you can do to kind of fix and block out and sort of draw attention from. But when you only have these two elements, you got to be a little bit more thoughtful. I believe that you have 100% of these skills. I think that your failure here is just in exercising your mind and thinking through things. There's too much here that's good and clear evidence that you're a very strong artist for me to think that you don't know how to do these things. But remember that the difference between me handing somebody something and them thinking, and I'm talking just one artist, right? Just me and the skill set that I have. Me handing somebody something and them going, oh, this is really cool. And me handing somebody something and them looking at it and thinking that I'm a wizard, right? There's no difference in skill between those two things. One, I thought through every detail, and sometimes a little bit of accidental magic happens, and sometimes, I'm just saying by and large. And the other one, the other piece is one that I kind of just phoned it in. That I know that I have, look, when you have as much experience as you do with a brush, everything you do is going to look good. Because you're going to have a certain wandering confidence. And all these little lines are going to look cool, and all these little dashes. And these aren't planned. I know that this is a spontaneous. You got this volume here, and you got this spontaneous wandering fabric thing, and you're great at that. But if you can combine that with a focused effort and a thought to, all right, where's my lighting come from? What are these materials made out of? Is everything in perspective? Let me draw through this just a little bit. When I'm saying draw through, for those of you watching that aren't the artist in question, is that you're drawing through the three-dimensional forms to make sure that everything sort of lines up in a proportional way. It takes much longer to draw through something. For those of us sitting at cons, I didn't draw through this piece of garbage, right? And I don't know if there are any issues necessarily proportionally, but it just has every other issue to the standard that I hold myself to. So the chain, the lighting is inconsistent. Where the marks are, the marks just seem to kind of just flow. And I know that if you watch a video of Jay Lee or Sean Gordon Murphy, yeah, the marks are just flowing, but they probably have a lot of hours on you, right? And they probably are thinking. I would like to think that when I get into my controlled disaster mode, that I am still thinking, that I'm using. You want a lot of the spontaneity that is here, and this is only one type of mark. A wet brush tip that has been dragged or dashed across. If I were going to add to that, I would think about adding at least one other tool to make a different kind of mark. You need to clean up this hand right here. It looks wonky and childish, and it's real strange. These two elements are really, really good, right? For a piece of comic art, they're super solid. This is an expressive hand. It's got this sort of webbed thing that gives it a kind of a dirty, creepy nature. The expression is great. You haven't really drawn in the teeth, but the detail you have added, it's perfect. It's a great expression. It's a great likeness. All the little details in here, but there's some parts that seem rushed to me, and it really takes away from what the piece could have been. As you saw in the beginning, the upstairs anatomy seems a little strange to me. This kind of, the shoulder I thought was just a little bit wider than it needed to be, and probably extend and make this arm position work. You could probably make it work and just create a slightly shorter arm. His limbs are very long and very strange, but I think that there's just a few quick fixes here, and then maybe add one different kind of mark for these metal inorganic elements. The folds in the fabric, your style, it works so well, but for these sort of metal or more angular geometric elements, maybe go with a different line marking device, even just a different brush that you can, a liner that you can pull thick to thin, really, really straight, a micron pen, or of course the Hunt 102 quill, which is to me the best mark making device in all of comics. But this is just personal, how to kind of expand on this piece. I like your sort of sloppy but tight hatching that you have going on here, and there's so much good here, but this is just okay, and it could be great. And the only difference, like I said, is I think thinking. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see the piece of crap that I made. Oh, that's hiding it. That's how it is. Here is this Wolverine, and I didn't finish it, but it was just that's it. It was just okay, and some of the proportions were wrong, and I got carried away. And how does that happen at a con? It's super easy. For those of you who have never been there, when you when you're making something for someone, I'm being interrupted every few minutes, not even every few minutes, sometimes every few seconds. You lose tools. You have limited tools to begin with. You're not at a drawing table. You're on a flat surface, or you've got it on a board on your lap on a metal chair, and it's just not. It's not the ideal place. Some people really thrive making stuff at cons, but everything I make at cons is garbage. And if you buy something from me, let me make it at home, or I have 100 different mediums like I like to work, or have people mail it. What are you doing? Like, find the artist that you want. Like, find Jay here. Find the guy you're like, oh, I dig your style. Your stuff is awesome. Because whatever you get at the con is probably going to be slightly less than. And why? I mean, it doesn't cost anything to mail. The artist is happy to be able to do it on their own terms and still talk to people. I'll end that rant. But so, yeah, Jay, I really wish you the best in your comic art and your selling comic art endeavors. I totally get why people would want to buy stuff from you, but I would encourage you to think a little bit more, vary up your marks, watch some Jay Lee videos, even if Jay isn't your direct influence here, because I think that he has some elements of style that are that are similar to yours, and he is so good, so good. And that's about all I have to say. So I hope this has helped you. It certainly helped me think about elements of style and mark making and the upshot. I'm going to practice some of those, and hopefully you will too. Thanks, guys. Until next time, send me your art. I will be happy to do this for you. Anything figurative, just not abstract art, but doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it's made out of. Take care.